Receiving love. Because as we open the service, we know that all that love is right here and right now. It's in this room, and we're so blessed to know that the infinite love intelligence of the universe is fully alive and awake right here and right now, that there's no more love yesterday than there is today, there's no more love tomorrow than there is today, that all of it is being given to us in overflow in its infinite and eternal nature right now. The only thing that we need to do is receive it, to let it into our beingness. And the more we let it into our beingness, we become it, which is what that beautiful song is bringing to us. I open, I accept, I receive, and I become love itself. And this really is the foundational teaching of Centers for Spiritual Living, of New Thoughts, of people in the spiritual progressive world. That there's an old idea that many people were taught in religious institutions that there's a God up in the sky. Often it's male, and often it's got a lot of rules and judgments. But we knew, I hear so many people talk about, well, when I was a kid, I just knew that didn't fit, that didn't make sense, because we feel the presence. It's always within us. And we know it's not separate, and we know it's not judging us, and we know how loving it is, especially children know this. And so we go on this search to find what makes sense to us, and that's how we end up in communities like this, that recognizes this divine love as all that there's ever been and ever will be, that we don't have to deserve it, it doesn't punish, it doesn't reward for our good behavior, that it always loves, it never stops loving, and that we are that expression of love every moment we open our heart, our body, our mind, our soul to be it. It is. It's so energizing to speak from it, and so that's why we love it. It opens our heart just to say the words. I was listening to a guy being interviewed this past week, Jeffrey Itzler, and he actually learned it from Navy SEALs. He said, I'm always good because I've learned the power of my word. But he didn't speak about it in religious terms. He just learned that speaking words evokes, creates. We can do that humanly at any place. So why are we on this spiritual journey? So I've become conscious of something, and I've known it. I started asking this question about 6 years ago when I started the Lighthouse of people. And I heard what people said to me, but somehow this past week, it just really hit me hard. That in some way, the way I'm doing my spiritual journey is a little bit different than a lot of people who are in the spiritual but not religious world, in the New Thought world. And so I had to start asking myself about that. And I thought, well, I just got to talk about it. I got to just and I already do talk about it. It's not that I don't talk about it. I'm just more conscious of it now to talk about it in a more conscious way. And what that is when I've asked people over the last 6 years, and I was asking this past week, how do you relate to the divine presence? How do you land in that awareness? I would say 90% of the people that I ask, not all of them, not all of you, but a good portion of people say the way I relate to the divine presence is to feel myself in alignment with it. That I feel its energy, I feel its power, I feel its presence, and my job or my role, my spiritual journey is about aligning myself, awakening through prayer, through meditation, aligning myself with it, letting it flow through me. I might get some intuitive senses of where to go, some guidance, and that's how most people are experiencing the divine, what I call God is, third person, and I am. For those of you who are in this teaching and have taken classes, we have a class that teaches what we call affirmative prayer. Ernest Holmes, who's the founder of Centers for Spiritual Living, back in the 1900s called it spiritual mind treatment, and which is basically affirmative prayer. And how we begin every one of our prayers is God is, or love is, or beauty is, or peace is, I am. We recognize the isness of pure spirit, the isness of presence, and that presence is who we are. And that's where most people land, which is great. And it's powerful, and I will never give that up because I love praying from that place and as that place. But I recognize on my journey that was never quite enough. What I found, what I believe, let me just say, in my 20 years of ministry, and prior to that I was a practitioner, the number one issue by far that I talk and meet with people about are relationships. If we did a relationship workshop, I'm sure it would be our biggest attended workshop, followed by money. But money often engages, if you take a money workshop, they say it's all about relationship. We are about relationship. We are about relationship. What most people are talking about is a relationship with a divine partner, a partner of some kind. But it's also with our parents, with our children, with our siblings, with our workmates, our friends, our communities. Relationship is what gets our heart going. It's what gets us up in the morning. So I was starting to think, well, it's just so odd that everyone says that the main way they relate to the divine is as third person in the isness and the I amness, but there's not much in the way of relationship. And I think somewhere along the way, because God was so long separate, and that when we come to this community, it's absolutely important to heal that. Ernest Holmes said, the only healing that's necessary is our healing of our separation from the divine. And so our entire journey is about healing that sense of separation, which is true. That in that, the love is I am, the healing, the separation, and that's all that's needed, and we don't need to go back to the relationship. We've evolved. I'm not saying this is true of you, but I think there's some people out there somewhere who think that the I-thou relationship is less than, because that represents the old way of doing it. I'm going to just throw out a proposition to you. Some of you are already with me, but for those of you who are not, I'm just asking. I'm not saying it's necessarily true. For me, it's true, but it's not necessarily absolutely true. I'm thinking that the I-thou relationship is actually the next step. After we know the presence is, after we know that I am, and we really anchor in that, love is I am, that what is essential is the I-thou. But now the I-thou is not coming from separation. The I-thou recognizes that all of it is God, the finite self, Harriet is the divine, and this infinite is divine. Why would that be important? If the only thing that we're trying to do is to return to this blissful state of oneness, there doesn't need to be, we don't need this planet. It already exists. That's what we teach. Love already exists. It never was birthed, it never dies. That all we're doing here is just sort of playing around, but ultimately we're all just going to return to this vast oneness of all creation that's always existed, always has existed, and nothing can ever hurt, harm, or endanger, nothing can limit, nothing can add to it. It just is. And our entire life journey is about going back to what already is. I don't believe that. What I believe is that there is this isness, but it created time and space, and we're all these little isnesses walking around the planet, and we're here to evolve. And the greatest and highest fulfillment I think that we're all seeking is to both feel our oneness with all life and also our full individualization. That this divine presence wants to be individuated. It wants to see itself and be itself expressed fully and completely as each and every individual. When you think of being in a relationship with someone, who do you want to be in a relationship with someone? You want to be in a relationship with someone who loves you, that you're so in love with. No one's using anyone, by the way. No one's a servant to anyone. But you're so madly in love with one another. You want nothing but the best for each other. You care about each other. You want that person to be fully who they are. And at the same time, you want to feel that incredible intimacy, that intimacy of such closeness, you almost feel like you're totally one. Right? I know that's what you want because that's what I talk about with people all the time. There's something so beautiful about being in that relationship, and we're willing to look for it everywhere out there, but we have a hard time really giving ourselves, not everybody, and I'm not saying you should, but I'm just opening up the possibility that we struggle sometimes with knowing how to open up to that incredibly passionate love affair with the divine, giving ourselves permission to be in a love affair with the divine. So even that love affair with the divine, I'm not looking at the divine as my master or my parent, although that also can be, if you have loving parents, but to really start opening up to the divine from that profound experience of lover, of this generous, infinitely wise, infinitely loving, infinitely joyful lover, someone we have fun with, we like playing with, we like talking with, we like being with. Is that a living possibility? You know, we read a lot of Rumi poems. Can we live like Rumi with that passion for our beloved? Can we give ourselves permission? So I'm going to share I've been doing this consciously for about 30 years now. It's a lot of stories. I'm not going to go into all of them. I'm picking 3. Time me. 1, 2, 3, go. Just to give a sense of what it can look like to be in a divine love affair. It started, so the initial beginning, first of all, like all of you, I know having talked with you, you've been on a spiritual journey your whole life. It's not like it suddenly just started. Most of you are very awake and have been conscious of your spiritual life for a very long time. And then there's a time where we just consciously become sort of mature adults in it. We make choices, conscious decisions as adults to be in this relationship in a new way. So the choice that I made was because though I was in New Thought, listened to Spirit, was in a New Thought church, Santa Anita church, taking classes, what was really grabbing me was my relationship with a boyfriend, and what really grabbed me about that relationship was how physical and emotional it was. It was like, he was like a bad boy. He didn't have any of the other good things that you want in a relationship, but the physical and emotional was really good. And I really wanted to get out of the relationship because I knew it was bad, but it was feeding something so profound that I needed, that all the I am statements in the world were not touching. All the principles in the world were not touching. It was feeding me physically and emotionally. And I remember my minister saying, well, clearly, since you're putting it before everything else, it's giving you something that you really long for. And I said, I know that I'm loved when I'm with him. I can feel it. It's a physical, tangible feeling. I love God, but it's so abstract. I can't feel it. It's not tangible. But I was brought to my knees because I knew I didn't want to be in a relationship. I got 105 fever 3 times that year. Every time I said I was going to break up with him, my whole body would go crazy. So my body and my mind were completely out of whack, and I couldn't get it in alignment. So I visit my family at Christmas time in Boston, go into the next day after Christmas, I go into Copley Square. There's a beautiful congregational church. I was raised congregational in Old South Congregational Church. I go in. It's the weekday. Nobody's there. And I'm just sitting there, just crying my eyes out. I've hit my rock bottom. I've done everything I know. I know principles. I've done therapy. I know everything, and nothing is helping me. I don't know what else to do. And in that moment, I know my only choice is to give my life to the divine first, to God. And I'm just for those of you who are new, I use the word God. It could be a universe, life, mother, infinite, eternal one, whatever word you want to use, because it's beyond all words, so any word is going to be limited. Give my life to God, and I had to put God first. I just finally realized I was putting my relationship with a human being first. The only way I was going to ever know God really was to put it first every day in my life. And then I thought, well, I'm feeling all that emotion now, but I know in 3 days this is going to fade. It's not tangible enough. So I just was in this agreement with God that I would, for between December 26th and December 31st, listen to what I needed to do to make it tangible, to make this commitment a tangible reality in my life. And the 3 things that I received were, you need to do meditation every day, you need to journal every day, you need to exercise every day. And so on December 31st, 1991, I made my commitment that I'm going to put God first before, no matter how emotional turmoil I'm in, no matter how tired I am, no matter how busy I am, God is more important than all of it. God's more important than my schedule. God's more important than anything. That I am going to do these 3 things every day as my way to tangibly say God is first in my life. It wasn't even until years later that I realized, love the Lord your God with your whole heart, body, mind, and soul. Spirit, meditation, mind, reading, which I did anyways, emotion, heart, journaling, exercise, body. That every day I was giving my entire life, I was saying, God, you are first in my life, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically. I tangibly committed and lived it. Now, in my memory, I was going to say that a few months down the line, things really started to subtly make these shifts. And then I was going back and reading my journaling, and within a week, it was extraordinary. I mean, we take one step towards the divine takes, 10,000 towards us, something like that. Certainly in my experience, I had this amazing mystical experience about what my path was, who I am, lights, all with just the next week. But it just kept happening. As I continue to put the divine presence, this love that I said is in this room right here and right now, it's always giving of itself, but we have to give ourselves to it. We have to say yes to it in a tangible and concrete way, to say that it's not just some abstract thought, some not wishful thinking, but literally stand on our 2 feet, say this is the most important thing. It's going to come washing into our life, and it did. It washed into my life. I kept having amazing experiences. I am what they call I was in the flow, and so I'm traveling across country. I'm going to work in a psychiatric hospital on the East Coast. As I'm traveling across country, I have the shift of reality, and I'm like, I'm going to be working with Michael Beckwith, but that doesn't make sense because I'm moving to the East Coast. But I put it to the side. I go to the East Coast. I'm working in a psychiatric hospital. Love it. Everything is in alignment. I love what I'm doing. I'm taking classes in the Centers for Spiritual Living. I have a mystical experience in every class, not because of the curriculum or the teachers, but because I'm giving my life to the divine every day, and everything is feeding it. And I'm doing service, and I'm serving at the hospital. I'm giving everything that I can. Everything is moving wonderfully. And then I get a call to be a minister, and from Yogananda and Shinryu Suzuki, and the only place that I could think of that I could do ministry where I'm including all the world's religions was Agape. I moved back to West Coast, take classes. I end up working at Agape with Michael Beckwith, like I was told earlier. And it just things keep flowing. And then I'm in the office, and Reverend Michael sits down with me, and he goes, I see you're going to be the minister of a church in Virginia. I said, no, you clearly have never talked with me. I'm not going to be a pulpit minister. It's nice that you are so arrogant that you think you know what is right for me. I was not pleased with him at all. 3 years later, I'm the minister of a church in Virginia, exactly where he said. So freaking irritating. So now I'm back in Virginia. I'm just about to start this new job, this pulpit ministry. How that all unfolded, amazing. It's like the summertime of giving your life to God. Everything's in the flow for years. And then I'm journaling to the divine, and the divine says, and I think it's preparing me for ministry because I'm going to start this church in 2 weeks. So in order to prepare, you need to do a 40-day fast. Basically, eat fruits and vegetables for 40 days. And you have to do it every day. You can't miss a day. If you miss a day, you got to start all the way from the beginning, which was, I think, the motivational speaking from the divine, like, don't quit. And then it said, and as you're doing the fast, at the end of the fast, you're going to meet your divine beloved. And I'm like, that's kind of nice. There was so much going on at the time, so I'm like, that's fun. How will I know it's the divine beloved? And he said, because it's going to be me, and I'm going to show up on your doorstep with a bouquet of flowers. I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. I'll go with it. But I knew the one thing I did know is I was starting ministry, and so I thought the fast was a great idea for that. I love the idea of meeting my divine beloved, but, that seemed a little far-fetched, but I'm open. God keeps showing miracles. So I'm doing the 40-day fast. Within the about two-thirds of the way through, the center has a holiday dance. I meet a guy, we're dancing, we're having a good time. And so we start dating, but I'm very aware that, okay, I at least got to give it a shot that I'm going to meet my divine beloved in 40 days. So I didn't take the dating too seriously because I had to meet my divine beloved. So we're dating, and this guy's light, and he's giving me little goofy kid gifts, and so it wasn't like this big romance where you bring flowers or anything. So I was enjoying it, but I wasn't thinking this was it. And so I even remember the last day, the 40th day was Halloween, and we were on a date, and I'm thinking, do I tell him my divine beloved's showing up tomorrow? Sorry, this has been fun, but So the next day, and because I'm at the same time I've started ministry, there's a lot going on. So this is the first time I'm like, is this really going to happen? Someone just going to blindly show up on my doorstep with roses? It really seemed quite improbable. And so I made a date with this guy, and we were going out with two friends from our community, and we were going to go bowling, again, very light, goofy. And he would bring me pencils with little kids' erasers and stuff. So I'm thinking, well, we'll go with him. Maybe we'll meet someone there. I'm just trying to figure out how this is all going to work. So it's 6 o'clock. It's our time I go to the front door to meet him. He gets out of his car, and he pulls out a bouquet of roses. And he walks up to the doorstep, and he hands them to me, and my mouth is just agape. Has that ever happened to you, where you've been in this love story, and the person that you're in love with just blows you away? The divine presence, has the divine presence just ever blown you away with saying it's going to do something, and it actually does it and shows up? So we go out to dinner, and I'm telling a little bit about this, and I think he's a little freaked out. And so then we go home, I'm like, I'll read it to you over the phone. Now, I had never gone back and read it. I still to this day don't know why I never went back and read it. So I never had gone back. I never told a single person about it. So I said, well, I'll go back and I'll read it to you over the phone, what was written. So we're on the phone. I remember exactly where I was sitting. I remember having the journal. It was red ink, and I'm red ink. I just realized that. and I am reading it, and then I stop, because for the entire 40 days, what I've been telling myself is, you are going to meet your divine beloved. What it actually said was, you are going to meet your husband and the father of your child. And as I'm talking to Jack, I'm thinking, do I tell him? Do I give him some illusion that he has a choice in this? And that's how I met my beautiful husband, match made by God. Yeah. It's a divine love story. And then I'm 37, he's 46. We made a decision. Well, he's a man of faith, and though he struggled with it, he has his own story. He was just yes. I didn't tell him about the marriage thing till later, though. But I got installed. The next month, Jack and I got married, and because we were older, 37, 46, we thought, well, if we can't get pregnant, we'll adopt. So we took no birth control precautions. I got pregnant on honeymoon. Julian is born 9 months later. And then I have a vision about learning integral theory. I'm out of the world. You need to learn this. This is like, forget everything else. Learn integral theory. It was so intense. So now I'm learning integral theory. It was a very intellectual thing, and I wouldn't have done it if I hadn't been so completely focused. Like, this is what you need to learn. So it gave my mind a great joy to be able to go crazy. Seek first the kingdom of God, and all things shall be added. I was giving my love every single day, body, heart, mind, and soul to the divine. Nothing was going to stop that. And in doing so, I had a job of serving, of ministry in an incredibly dynamic community, highly educated. This is Washington, D.C., very active, very passionate. I was divinely matched with my beloved. I had a new child, and now I'm learning integral theory. Everything had been given. All things shall be added unto you. All things shall be added unto you. That was great. It was so hard. Have you ever been in a relationship where things start to fall apart? Where it's like, oh, this is all great, and you're madly in love, and they say it's the honeymoon period, and then things start to fall apart? I was so completely overwhelmed. I had never led anything more than 6 people in my life, and suddenly I am the minister, much younger than almost everybody in the community. At the time, I was in my mid-30s. I'm leading for the first time in my life, very smart, these are people who are high up in the government, and they're very passionate about what they think, and we had Democrats and Republicans, and they care because their jobs were it, and yet it was amazing to me how everyone got along and worked together, but at the same time, it was overwhelming to be suddenly in this leadership position. I love that I was divinely put together with Jack, but Jack and I really didn't know each other that well. I mean, the marriage thing came first, and then we're like, oh, you know what? We're really different. We have a lot of differences here. How are we going to work that out? Oh, you know what? Here, you're also a mom. I hadn't been thinking about babies for the last 8 years. I've been thinking about everything was ministry, and suddenly I'm a mother, and I'm learning this new theory. I was like totally out of control, and I was like being poked at by everything, and so I got really angry and really sad. I'm like, wait a minute. I've given my life to you. You're supposed to know who I am, and this is just way too much. I can't do this. I felt betrayed. I can't do this. This is too much. There's too much newness everywhere. If it was just one thing at a time, but all at once, simultaneously, all things shall be added is not necessarily a blessing. It was hard. And I think that there was one time I walked up in Delville, and I'm like, forget me asking you for forgiveness. You should ask me for forgiveness because you've got it all messed up here. I was angry and I was sad. So it's like the season of the fall season where things start falling apart, the things that you think. And then ultimately, even the integral theory is great, but the institute, which was thriving, suddenly just all exploded too. So it just like, so then I went from fall where everything, I couldn't do it, and I was angry, and I didn't understand because my belief was that to give my life to my divine beloved meant everything was going to be wonderful all of the time, and I was never going to be troubled or hard, and Spirit was pushing me to grow in every area of my life all at once. So my own ideas were getting challenged daily by everything in my life because the divine beloved had decided it was time for me to grow. but I was angry about that, because it wasn't how I interpreted it. For me, the divine beloved was going to keep me comfortable and happy the rest of my life. That is not the intention. Then, from the fall, I went into winter. And maybe you've experienced this in a relationship. I just felt empty. I just kept showing up, but I didn't even feel angry or sad. I was just like, okay, I get it. I've done it. I'm married. I'm a minister. I'm learning integral theory. I'm a mom. I'm doing it all, but I thought this was all going to bring me this deep joy, and I just felt emptiness. It's called the dark night of the soul. Has anyone here been in the dark night of the soul? Yeah, it's painful. Easily the most painful part of my life. I never stopped doing my spiritual practices, by the way. When I was angry, I still showed up because of our teaching, because I knew love is. It doesn't come and it doesn't go. I knew it always loved me. I knew that my own humanity was having a reaction to it, but I never once doubted the fact that this was pure love and that I was just somehow not understanding it in that moment. So I continued to show up to do my spiritual practices during the fall when I was angry and sad, and I continued to do my spiritual practice through 3 years of the dark night of the soul, where it was just empty. It was the desert. I kept showing up, but that which had given me so much for years and years and was giving me stuff was empty. That was horrible. And then one day that little crocus peeked out of the snow. New life started to grow. And I know the moment it happened. For me, in that moment, it was a guy who works with the homeless put the Brother Lawrence's book, Practicing the Presence, on my table at Starbucks. He said, I think you're going to like this. And I was so empty at this point that I just started reading it, and it woke me up. It filled my soul. That little crocus started blossoming. And it happened just as we were starting the Lighthouse here. And so this beautiful new light was shining and waking up inside of me, and I'm exploring. I'm trying to figure out how it all fits together. But now that presence is back in my life. That presence is now I'm experiencing it in a whole new way that I had never experienced it before. And that relationship with the divine lover, as you also may have experienced, if we stick these relationships out, it might go through an angry phase, it might go through a dead phase, but if we keep at it and we keep giving ourselves to it, keep doing our spiritual practices, keep giving ourselves to our divine beloved, new life shows up, and that intimacy is even deeper. I felt even more at home. I felt even more connected. Have you had that experience? Where you've gone through a dark phase, a difficult phase, and you stick with it, and something new gets rebirthed. So this new life is being birthed, and it's wonderful, and it's busy, and I'm trying to figure it. We're in this community, we're creating new things. We got Julian growing up, and it's wonderful. And then finally, my divine beloved says, you know what, Harriet? We just need to take a little retreat, just the two of us. You've been at this for a long time. Let's give you a little retreat. So my divine beloved, so she loves me too. My beloved's both genders. She sends me these 2 dreams where I'm in a hospital. I'm in a what do you call those things? Hospital gown. And it's clearly after a procedure. I'm done. I'm recuperating, and I'm in so much joy. The dream that it's all light. It's magnetic. And what caught my attention about it was not only how much joy it was, that I wanted to be there, which I thought was kind of odd. You don't see a picture of you being in a hospital and wanting to be there. So in retrospect, as I've gone back just recently reading back my journals of the aneurysm, it was quite emotional externally, and I get emotional looking at it. It was far more, on the human stage, scary than I was experiencing, because I was experiencing it from within, because the divine presence was taking care of me, guiding me. This is what's going to happen. So I get these 2 dreams. I'm open to it because I feel the love and the joy. And then I get this horrible headache. I'm living with headache. And then I have this, as I mentioned a few weeks ago, the visit from the turkey vulture just right outside my door. Hello. Death and regeneration. I'm being prepared. She's preparing me. She's saying, get ready. We're going to go off on our little retreat together, just you and I. And so then 3 days later, I have my aneurysm. The divine loves us so much. Nothing in me gets impacted except for my brain that thinks. I didn't lose all thinking. It just slowed it way, way, way down. What do we do in meditation? We try to slow our brain down. She did it for me. It was great. Suddenly my brain slowing right down, and I'm suddenly feeling this presence and this joy in the midst of my brain. I wasn't I didn't feel too much fear until the doctor was giving me statistics about how many people died, but I didn't really think I was going to die. I thought, okay, it might be a possibility, but I just felt so much this was all ordained by the divine presence to be with it. And because I practiced Kriya Yoga for 9 years, and which is all about the energy body, that as soon as they put the medication into me, I just went right into my energy body, which we all have, and in the light. And in this place of light, I was with my divine beloved, not form. It was just light. It was heart to heart, but I didn't have a body. It was just, I can't explain it. You can't explain it, but it's just heart to heart. And it was so intimate, and nothing was missing. And it was just us. The entire universe was just us. It wasn't us and the universe was out there, or it was us. It was just everything was just us, this divine relationship of the I, thou, of the infinite beloved. And this is why we need you poets out there, because I can't use words. Some of you have such gift of words. Rumi has a gift of words. It's beyond anything in this world, but it was intimate. And it was definitely a connection, not just oneness. It was the I, thou. And as I'm in this light and in the subtle body, and we're having these communications, and then we move into the causal body, which now you're beyond light. And I'm clear that communication kept happening, this love kept happening, and then the anesthesia wears out, and I'm back in my body in the hospital room. I remember looking up, there's technicians above me, and the first thing I ask is, where's Jack? And he's right there. My divine beloved in the invisible, and my divine beloved standing right next to me, who God brought to me all those years ago, and there he is holding my hand. It's Labor Day weekend. We have a 3-day weekend. They're on a skeleton staff. There's hardly any patients on the floor. And it's like Jack and I have this beautiful weekend together of not, the great thing, he's probably very happy. My brain was really slow, so I wasn't talking his ear off. But we just got to be together in presence for this beautiful weekend of my divine beloved. We are so powerfully loved on every level and dimension of our being. And then, as you also may have experienced when you go off with your divine beloved on this world or any world, you go to a spiritual conference or you go with your divine beloved somewhere, and when you come back into the world, it's sometimes a little hard because you're trying to integrate all that great expansive energy into your life. And so that's all that's happening now. We're trying to integrate all this beautiful love energy. How do we do that? And I got clear about it's time to get ordained and new classes. I just got to share this one little thing. We wanted to change our eating, so we're doing Plant Strong. On our Facebook page, Jack posts every week this little song about vegetables. And the guy who runs the organization loves it. He has a conference in North Carolina in August, and he said, Jack, I want you to be our music guy. I'll pay for everything. And you have the trainer for Jay-Z and Beyonce will be there. Got a lot of big people there. Jack's the music guy. The love story just continues. It never ends. It's just going to keep growing, and I'm going to have my challenges with me because I have a big ego. I hate to say it. And so I fight a lot, but the thing is, this journey is not about our egos, but it includes our egos, and that's why I love the I, thou. I still get to have a voice. See, I think the divine wants us to have a voice. The divine wants every infinite expression, every small being, isness, unique, individualized, to have a voice. It doesn't want us just to surrender our voice to the infinite I am and give up that individuation. It wants us to be individuated and give our individuation fully to it so we can actually become more individuated and more one. It's a paradox that we can't wrap our head around, but I believe it's longing for us. I don't believe I'm in a comedy. I don't think I'm in a drama. I think I'm in the greatest love story ever. And the question is, are you? Are you willing to live the greatest love story ever because it's available to everyone in this room? And if it's any of the conversations that I have with you, is it a telltale sign? We want to be in the greatest love story, but we have to give ourselves to it. We have to give ourselves completely to it. It's not something we just decide in our head, or we do when it's convenient, or when things are good, or when things are looking the way we think they should look. Because it's not about using it for our good. Sometimes I hear people say that. I'm using the divine presence for my good. I would say even Ernest Holmes has said that. We use God. No. And it's not using us for its good. Who's in a relationship where your main idea of being in a love relationship is to use one another? That's not love. This is the deepest, most profound love. Everything the divine is doing is for you, for your finite self, for your individual body expression. It is giving everything to you. And if you give everything back to it, we will see the fruition of it. We are all living that great love story. Yes, we are in the isness and the I amness. We don't ever want to give that up. That's the foundation. God is I am. Love is I am. And from that foundation, I can individually, uniquely to be in relationship with that I amness and find the greatest joy ever. This is your love story. You're all living it. But you need to see it. You need to give yourself to it. And you need to be the one to tell it. So you're living the greatest love story that you've ever told. Let's pray. And so we begin at the beginning. Love is. This divine presence is. It is all that has ever been and ever will be. It can never be anything but love. There's nothing that could ever limit this love. There's nothing that could ever add to that love. We can't make that love happen. It simply is. It is in, through, and as all creation. As all creation. It is every atom and cell of our beingness, of animate and inanimate objects. It is the earth. It is the universe. It is the galaxies upon galaxies upon galaxies. It is every grain of sand. It is. It is all time and space, and it is free of all time and space. It transcends all time and space. It is beyond anything we could ever humanly conceive. And yet we know that love intimately because it is who we are. It is what breathes us. It is what thinks us. It is what lives itself as us. It moves and has its way as us, and we allow it its full sway as us because we trust this love to love itself madly as each and every one of us, even as we love it madly with our whole heart, body, mind, and soul. We give ourselves to you, O beloved one. We are in this room because of you, O beloved one. We surrender our life to you because we trust this presence loves us as we love you, and we say yes to it. We trust you with everything that is unfolding in our life today. This very moment, we trust completely that this divine love that we give ourselves to, we trust you, divine, infinite, and eternal one. We trust you with our life. We see you in everything that's happening. We give thanks for you. We allow you to guide us even as we speak our truth and speak our ways of being and allow ourselves to be uniquely who we are. We never need to stop being our unique self in your presence because you love our unique self. You want us to be our unique self. And so we are safe in you. We are safe to trust you because you are never going to try to make us anything other than who and what we really are as individual expressions of you. You are never going to try to make us anything other than the individualized expression of love. We get to be fully ourselves and one with you all at once. And this is the divine and the greatest healing of all. And it is available to each and every individual on this planet right here and right now. All we need to do is say yes. To say yes, and then to follow that yes with our daily commitment of giving ourselves to this vast love as never before, knowing that nothing else matters when we give our life to the God. We do not have to manifest anything. It's always already been given. All of our good has already been given to us. Everything has already been given. We don't need to ask. It's been given. We just need to say yes and give ourselves back to that which has been given. And today we see that, we feel that, we know that. We are willing to see this beautiful love story alive in our life. And we are willing to start calling it forth and sharing our greatest love story with one another, basking in this glorious love that surrounds and folds all of us. And it is from this place we are living the marriage of heaven and earth. We are living the marriage of the infinite and the finite, the marriage of the absolute and the relative. We are living the marriage of all seeming opposites. We become that living, dynamic love that is beyond words. This is who we are now. To God be the glory. To the divine love be the glory. We say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, infinite and eternal one, and we release this word into the joy and the freedom and the energy of pure being, knowing that as this prayer has been spoken, it was long a time ago fulfilled, and it is done. And we say with confidence, with joy, and everlasting love, and so it is. Amen and amen.
And so it is. And so it is. And so it is. Amen. 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 And so it is. Amen.
Amen and amen.